When Arya Stark leapt from the darkness and drove that Valyrian steel dagger into the Night King's chest, ending the entire White Walker threat in a single blow, millions of viewers lost their minds. But here's what most people completely missed. That moment wasn't luck. It wasn't plot armor. It was the culmination of nearly a decade of training that started way earlier than you think. And every single piece of that training was essential to that kill. And before we dive deep into Arya's incredible transformation from rebellious noble girl to the deadliest assassin in Westeros, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our breakdowns of the secrets hidden in your favorite shows. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what we're about to uncover. Let's get into it. Most fans point to the House of Black and White when they talk about Arya's training. Sure, that's where she learned to become a faceless assassin, where she mastered stealth and learned to wear other people's faces. But the truth is, Arya's real training began the moment she arrived in King's Landing with her father Ned Stark. And it started with a man most viewers have completely forgotten about. Syrio Forel. Now, Syrio wasn't just some random sword instructor. This guy was the former First Sword of Braavos, the most elite position a warrior could hold in that entire city. When the Sea Lord of Braavos needed someone to guard his life, Syrio was the man. And the story of how he got that job tells you everything you need to know about his philosophy. The previous First Sword had died, and the Sea Lord called Syrio in. He pointed to a cat sitting on his lap and asked Syrio what was special about this rare creature from distant lands. While everyone else saw what they wanted to see, Syrio saw the truth. He told the Sea Lord it was just a regular tomcat from the alleys of Braavos. Nothing special. Nothing magical. Just what it actually was. Because he saw reality instead of illusion, he became First Sword. That lesson, seeing what's actually there instead of what people want you to see, became the foundation of everything Arya would become. Syrio taught her the water dance, the Braavosi fighting style that emphasized speed, agility, and precision over brute strength. But more importantly, he taught her how to think like a warrior. In the books, George R.R. Martin goes into detail about Syrio's teaching methods. He had Arya chase cats around the Red Keep to improve her speed and reflexes. He made her balance on one foot for hours to develop her equilibrium. He covered her eyes with black cloth and made her do backflips to heighten her other senses. Ned Stark actually thought Syrio was being too harsh on Arya. She came home covered in bruises, sore all over. Sansa even mocked her for being a terrible dancer, not knowing Arya was learning something far more valuable than courtly dances. But here's where it gets interesting. Syrio's most important lesson wasn't about fighting at all. It was about fear. He taught Arya that fear cuts deeper than swords. He taught her to stay present, to focus on the here and now instead of dwelling on her troubles. When Arya was distracted during training after her friend Micah was murdered, Syrio stopped the lesson. He told her she was vulnerable when she was with her trouble instead of concentrating on what was right in front of her. And years later, when Arya faced the waif in total darkness, when she stared down the Night King, when she navigated the chaos of war-torn Westeros, it was Syrio's voice in her head. Swift as a deer. Quiet as a shadow. Fear cuts deeper than swords. Strong as a bear. Fierce as a wolverine. Calm as still water. The most famous lesson Syrio taught Arya was this simple exchange. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. That wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a philosophy that would define Arya's entire character arc. And when Melisandre repeated those exact words to Arya right before the Battle of Winterfell, it wasn't random. It was a direct callback to the foundation of Arya's training, the very first lesson that set her on the path to killing death itself. Now, when the Lannisters came for Arya after Ned's arrest, Syrio stood between her and 5 armed guards with nothing but a wooden practice sword. And he beat them all. Every single one. But Ser Maren Trant, wearing full plate armor and wielding a real sword, was a different story. Syrio told Arya to run, and the last thing she heard was his battle cry. The show never confirmed his death, and fans have debated for years whether Syrio survived. Maisie Williams herself asked the showrunners, and they told her he was dead. But even if Syrio died that day, his teachings lived on in Arya. Every lesson he taught her would save her life dozens of times over. After escaping King's Landing, Arya's education took a brutal turn. She witnessed her father's execution. She saw the consequences of honor in a dishonorable world. She learned that the rules she'd been taught her entire life meant nothing when survival was on the line. And her next teacher would drive that lesson home harder than anyone else ever could. Sandor Clegane. The Hound wasn't trying to teach Arya anything. He was trying to ransom her to her family for gold. But in the process, he showed her a side of the world Syrio never could. Where Syrio taught her grace and precision, the Hound taught her ruthlessness. Where Syrio taught her to see clearly, the Hound taught her that sometimes what you see is ugly, brutal, and unfair, and you have to deal with it anyway. In Season 4, there's this incredible scene that perfectly captures what the Hound taught Arya. She's practicing the water dance beside a river, doing her forms, staying sharp. The Hound watches her and mocks her for prancing around. When Arya mentions Syrio Forel, the Hound openly laughs at her. He reminds her that Syrio was killed by Ser Meryn Trant, one of the weakest fighters in the King's Guard. Then he lets Arya take a swing at him with Needle. She stabs him right in the chest. And Needle doesn't even pierce his armor. The Hound backhands her to the ground, points Needle at her throat, and delivers the most brutal lesson of Arya's entire journey. Syrio Forel is dead. Meryn Trant is alive because he had armor and a big sword. Your fancy techniques mean nothing if you can't adapt to reality. The Hound taught Arya that survival isn't about honor or elegance. It's about doing what needs to be done. He taught her to be practical, to be hard, to take what she needed and leave the rest behind. When the Hound was dying after his brutal fight with Brienne, Arya could have ended his suffering. She could have given him mercy. Instead, she took his silver and left him to die. She learned that lesson from him. Take what you need. Leave the rest. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment. But here's the thing people miss about the Hound's influence on Arya. He didn't just teach her to be ruthless. He taught her to be efficient. To choose her battles. To understand that sometimes the smart move isn't the honorable move. And when Arya returned to Westeros and systematically eliminated House Frey, when she killed Meryn Trant without hesitation, when she chose to turn away from her quest for vengeance at the very end and let Cersei Lannister die without her intervention, all of that came from what the Hound taught her. You have a good heart, he told her once. One day it will get you killed. He was teaching her to protect that heart by hardening everything around it. Now we need to talk about something the show changed from the books, and it's actually brilliant. In the books, Arya serves Roose Bolton at Harrenhal, not Tywin Lannister. But the showrunners made a genius decision to have Arya become Tywin's cupbearer instead. And this section of Arya's journey is criminally underrated as part of her training. Think about what Arya learned at Harrenhal. She was disguised as a commoner girl, standing right next to the man leading the war against her family. And Tywin, one of the smartest, most observant men in Westeros, suspected she was highborn but never figured out she was Arya Stark. That right there was masterclass training in deception. Tywin kept testing her. He corrected her speech when she said my lord instead of M-lord, the way a low-born girl would say it. He questioned her knowledge about history and houses. He noticed she could read. And Arya had to think on her feet every single time, creating believable lies, staying in character, never slipping up even once. In one scene, Tywin asks Arya where she learned about Visenya Targaryen and her Valyrian steel sword. Arya says from my father. Tywin immediately catches the problem. Your father was a stonemason, and I've never met a literate stonemason. Arya has to recover instantly. She tells him her mother served Lady Dustin for many years and taught her to speak properly. Watch that scene again. Arya is learning to lie to one of the most dangerous men alive, and she's getting away with it. That skill, that ability to become someone else while keeping her true self hidden, that's exactly what the Faceless Men would later train her to do. But she started learning it from Tywin Lannister. There's also this beautiful irony in these scenes. Tywin tells Arya about teaching his son Jaime to read despite his learning disability. He talks about legacy, about family, about the importance of the Lannister name. And Arya is standing right there, a Stark, listening to everything. She's learning how her enemies think. She's understanding their motivations. And that knowledge would serve her later when she needed to anticipate their moves and strike at exactly the right moment. The other crucial part of Arya's time at Harrenhal was meeting Jaqen Hagar. This is where Arya got her first real taste of what it meant to be a faceless man. Jaqen offered Arya 3 deaths as payment for saving his life. And Arya used those deaths strategically. She killed the Tickler, the man who tortured people for information. She killed Ser Amory Lorch when he threatened to reveal information to Tywin. And when Jaqen refused to help her escape, Arya named Jaqen himself as the 3rd death, forcing him to help them or die. That move right there showed Arya understood leverage, manipulation, and creative problem solving. Those aren't things you can teach in a training yard. Those are things you learn by surviving impossible situations. When Jaqen left Harrenhal, he gave Arya an iron coin and told her if she ever wanted to learn his skills, she should give that coin to any man from Braavos and say Vala Morghulis. All men must die. Arya held on to that coin for years. And when she finally used it, after the Hound's defeat, after losing everyone she loved, she crossed the narrow sea to the House of Black and White. Now, everyone knows about Arya's training with the Faceless Men. That's the obvious part. But what most viewers don't understand is how much of that training Arya had already completed before she ever set foot in Braavos. The Faceless Men taught her to become no one, to shed her identity and become whoever she needed to be. But Arya had already been doing that. She'd been Aery, a boy traveling with the Night's Watch. She'd been Weasel, a scared orphan. She'd been a servant at Harrenhal. She'd worn different faces long before the House of Black and White gave her the literal ability to change her appearance. The Faceless Men taught her to lie perfectly, to detect when others were lying. But Tywin Lannister had already forced her to master deception. The Faceless Men taught her to fight in darkness after they blinded her as punishment. But Syrio Forel had already trained her blindfolded, heightening her other senses. The Faceless Men taught her about death, about killing without emotion. But the Hound had already taught her that death is a tool, nothing more and nothing less. See what I'm getting at here? Arya didn't arrive in Braavos as a blank slate. She arrived as someone who'd already been training for this exact role for years without even realizing it. The most important thing the Faceless Men taught Arya wasn't a skill. It was a choice. They wanted her to become no one, to abandon Arya Stark completely. And Arya refused. She kept Needle hidden instead of throwing it away with her other possessions. She continued reciting her kill list every night even while training to become an assassin. She couldn't kill Lady Crane when the Faceless Men ordered her to, because Lady Crane had done nothing wrong. And when the waif came to kill her, Arya lured her into a dark room, blew out the candle, and killed her using the very skills the Faceless Men had taught her. Then Arya looked at Jaqen and said the most important line of her entire character arc. "A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I am going home." That's when everything clicked into place. Arya had taken the skills from every single teacher, every brutal experience, every loss and triumph, and forged them into something uniquely her own. She wasn't a water dancer. She wasn't a faceless man. She wasn't the Hound's apprentice. She was Arya Stark, and she could be all of those things when she needed to be. When Arya returned to Winterfell in Season 7, there's a scene that perfectly demonstrates how far she'd come. She spars with Brienne of Tarth in the courtyard. And watch that fight carefully. Arya uses the water dance she learned from Syrio, all speed and precision. She uses the ruthless efficiency the Hound taught her, going for killing blows without hesitation. She uses the stealth and misdirection she learned from the Faceless Men, moving in ways Brienne can't predict. And when Brienne knocks Needle out of her hand, Arya instantly switches to the Valyrian steel dagger and uses the exact hand-switching move she would later use on the Night King. That wasn't just a cool fight scene. That was the writers showing us that Arya had integrated every aspect of her training into one cohesive fighting style. Every teacher contributed something essential. Now let's talk about that moment. The moment that changed everything. The Battle of Winterfell. The Long Night. When Arya killed the Night King and saved all of humanity. Most people focus on the surprise of Arya being the one to land the killing blow instead of Jon Snow. But if you've been paying attention to everything we've discussed, it shouldn't have been a surprise at all. Every single piece of Arya's training led to that exact moment. Think about what it took to kill the Night King. Arya needed to slip past an entire army of the dead and the Night King's White Walker generals without being detected. That's the Faceless Men training. Speed and precision. Arya needed to strike at exactly the right moment with exactly the right weapon. That's Syrio's water dance. Ruthlessness. Arya couldn't hesitate. She had to commit completely to a strike that would either save the world or get her killed. That's what the Hound taught her. Deception. When the Night King caught her by the throat, Arya made him think he'd won. Then she dropped the dagger to her other hand and struck. That's the same deception she used on Tywin, the same misdirection the Faceless Men taught her. And the weapon itself? That Valyrian steel dagger had its own journey. It was used in an attempt to kill Bran in Season 1. It passed through Littlefinger's hands. Bran gave it to Arya in Season 7, right after demonstrating his powers as the Three-Eyed Raven. Some fans believe Bran knew exactly what would happen, that he gave Arya that specific dagger because he'd seen this moment. Even Melisandre's presence at the Battle of Winterfell connects back to Arya's training. When Melisandre reminded Arya about the eyes she would close forever, brown eyes, green eyes, and blue eyes, that was a callback to a prophecy from Season 3. But more importantly, when Melisandre repeated Syrio's words, "What do we say to the god of death, not today," that was the moment Arya understood. Everything Syrio taught her, everything she'd learned about death from every teacher, it was all building to this. The Night King was the god of death made flesh. And Arya, trained by death itself, was the only one who could stop him. The showrunners revealed they'd known for 3 years that Arya would kill the Night King. Which means from Season 5 onward, they were deliberately setting up this moment. Every fight scene, every lesson, every skill Arya developed was moving toward this climax. In the books, we don't know yet how the story with the others will resolve. George R.R. Martin hasn't finished that part of the tale. But the core themes are there. Arya's journey from highborn girl to trained killer, her refusal to give up her identity even while learning to become someone else, her connection to death and her determination to face it head-on. Those themes run through both the show and the books. Here's what makes Arya's story so powerful. She never fit the traditional hero mold. Jon Snow is the secret prince with the magic sword. Daenerys is the dragon queen with the divine right to rule. Arya earned every single thing she became through blood, sweat, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. She didn't have a prophecy about her. She wasn't chosen by ancient magic. She was a 9-year-old girl who loved her family and refused to accept the limitations the world tried to place on her. When everyone told her she had to be a lady, she learned to fight. When everyone told her she was helpless, she learned to kill. When everyone told her to forget who she was, she held on to her identity with both hands and never let go. Syrio taught her that the heart lies and the head plays tricks, but the eyes see true. The Hound taught her that survival requires adaptation. Tywin taught her to think strategically and manipulate perception. Jaqen taught her that death is a gift you can give, and the Faceless Men taught her to master it completely. But Arya taught herself the most important lesson of all. You can learn from everyone, take what they offer, and still remain yourself. You can become no one when you need to, and still be Arya Stark of Winterfell when it matters. That's why when people say Arya killing the Night King came out of nowhere, they're not paying attention. The show spent 8 years building to that moment. Every scene of Arya learning, training, suffering, and surviving was a brick in the foundation. The water dance classes in King's Landing. The brutal lessons on the road with the Hound. The deception practiced at Harrenhal. The identity training in Bravos. The sparring with Brienne. Every piece fit together perfectly. And when Arya leapt from the darkness and drove that dagger home, she wasn't just killing the Night King. She was proving that the unlikely hero, the one no one saw coming, can change the world if they're willing to do the work. That's the secret everyone missed about Arya's journey. It wasn't hidden at all. It was right there in front of us the entire time. We just had to learn to see it the way Syrio taught Arya to see. Not what we wanted to be there, but what was actually there. A warrior in the making. A student who never stopped learning. A killer who never lost her humanity. A girl who became no one so she could be anyone, and chose to be herself. So the next time you watch Game of Thrones, pay attention to those early scenes. Watch Syrio teaching Arya to chase cats. Watch the Hound show her the harsh realities of survival. Watch her deceive Tywin Lannister right to his face. Every moment is training. Every experience shapes her. And it all leads to one perfect strike in the darkness that saves the entire world. That's Arya Stark. That's what dedication looks like. That's what it means to refuse to be anything less than who you truly are, even when the world keeps trying to make you into something else. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Arya's incredible journey and the hidden training that made her the hero of Winterfell, make sure you hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which aspect of her training you found most fascinating. And seriously, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We break down the secrets and hidden details in all your favorite shows and movies. Until next time, remember what Arya taught us. When the world tells you who you're supposed to be, show them who you actually are. Stay sharp out there.